What we're going to accomplish right now is we're going to talk about the criticality of strategic plans as they work in the organization as a whole. And in order to do that, we need to talk about two things. There are two critical pieces at this point now. We've got our strategic plan accomplished, but now we need to talk about how we're going to implement it. How are we going to execute all of the pieces to the plan? There are two things that we absolutely have to have in order to make that work successfully in any large organization, particularly, even small organizations to a certain extent. We need great leadership and we need effective systems. If the system doesn't work, the organization will, in the very least, not perform successfully or not perform highly. And it could, in fact, over a period of time, implode. If you don't have leadership to drive the strategic planning process and the management of that entire plan, and to make sure that the pieces to the system, which is the entire organization, work in unison towards that shared vision, towards unified goals and objectives, then all of this effort is for nothing. So with that, I want to talk to you for just a couple of minutes about integrated strategic management systems. And we have the best example of that right here. You will also be receiving that in hard copy, and your copy will look exactly like this. And also you can refer to our slide. So with that, let's talk about a couple of things. Every large organization has different pieces to it, has different pieces to the puzzle. Some of those might be things like, okay, we have leadership in the middle. We have executive level leadership, supervisory management. We have all kinds of leadership in the middle of the organization. That's the nucleus we can build around. Around them is the strategic plan that we just developed. But now we're getting to implementing the plan, and there's some critical factors here. To make up most large organizations, we have a multitude of entities. We might have HR here, we might have fiscal here, we might have legal, logistics, security, R&D. We have all these different types of pieces to a large puzzle. But here comes the problem. In many organizations, and particularly the larger you go, what happens is, instead of getting the 3 C's here, which is basically collaboration, cooperation, and communication, you get competition. And that's what we don't want. See, what happens is, particularly when times are tight, is there are only so many resources and so many ways to split the pie up, to cut the pie into different sections. And all of these directors and VPs and assistant VPs from all the different entities all are competing, unfortunately, for the largest share or piece of the resources in an effort to have their piece that they are particularly responsible for perform as high as possible. We don't want internal competition. We want collaboration, we want cooperation, and how you get collaboration and cooperation is effective interpersonal communications. We have to have effective interpersonal communications. That is the glue that allows us to operate any organization. How can you get large numbers of people to work together if you don't have effective interpersonal communications? So communications, guys, is critical to getting this entire operation to flow smoothly. Okay? So we've got two major pieces again, as I said. We have leadership. And leadership drives the organization as a whole. And so that part is the system. The organization is a system. At least it should be. If the system works well, typically you'll see a high-performing organization. You'll see fairly happy employees, pretty highly motivated. You'll see good R&D, reinvestment of resources into the organization. If you see bad systems or poorly performing systems, systems that, using the term system, might be a stretch, then you run into problems. And you can see those kinds of organizations every day. They fail. They fail. So in a nutshell then, you want to do something that a guy named Dr. Michael Hammer explains in his book, The Agenda. He talks about be easy to do business with. Be easy to do business with. Now, the first thing you might think is he's talking about customers and clients from the outside interacting with the organization. And that is important. Obviously, if you want clients and customers to come back to your organization for services, then you need to be easy to do business with. But here's the real clincher. If that's not necessarily what he's talking about, he's talking about internal business. Be easy to do business with. And that doesn't always happen. Many people can cite numerous instances of when they were working inside the organization of another shop, another entity, another division, bureau, office that was competing against them and in fact made their job even harder. Not only did they not cooperate, they were competing with one another. All of that is counterproductive to the implementation of our strategic plan that we just developed. And in fact, there's another book, The Fifth Discipline by Peter Senge, who drives the same exact point home. The same exact point. He talks about systems theory and how critical it is that large organizations and all of the various entities work together in unison towards mission accomplishment. So with that, we have an integrated strategic management system. This is nothing more than a model for you to be able to follow, to understand how all these pieces fit together. So for most large organizations, you'll see this should look familiar. This is the strategic planning process right here. Mission, vision, goals, objectives, strategies, and work plans. When an organization starts with this, we now need to make sure that leadership, and that's why it's in the center here, leadership, supervisory management, first line, mid-level, executive level, that everybody is driving the vision of the organization. However, now we got to look at the rest of the puzzle, so to speak, the rest of the system. And that means we have to look at all of the outside influences. And the outside influences entail things like the political climate, outside sources of funding, geographical requirements or restrictions on your company. What type of workforce do you have available? What types of skills and abilities does the workforce have? What kind of technology is prevailing at this time? All of these, along with many other things like what are the prevailing laws of the area in which you're in, what does the tax code look like, all of those items affect the implementation of the strategic plan. And then on the other side of leadership, we have all the internal functions of the organization, which we just listed here. Here's just a few. Most large organizations have 20, 30, sometimes even upwards of 40 individual areas, from logistics and supply to planning and R&D to fiscal control to training, you name it. And then the last piece before we get over here to current performance levels is right here in the middle. And I can't reinforce to you or explain to you enough how critical this is. Once you see these various entities, and once you look at the strategic plan, and once you have leadership in on this, and there's buy-in from every level of the organization, and you start to actually do the managing the process, and you start this piece, there are numerous things that you need to make sure that you have prepared for. And they are all listed right here. You need to make sure that the organization operates in an ethical fashion. You need to make sure that there's a philosophy, and the philosophy of leadership and management is on the same page. And that if there's a union, that the union understands how they fit in, and that they agree to some degree with top leadership, that we don't have some type of divergence or some type of bifurcation in how everybody's viewing where this company's going. You also need obviously you need policies, so you need all of your policies, procedures, and you need everything that goes along with those, like the enforcement of various rules and regulations. And when you look at some of these things like what's the ethical character of your organization, what is the leadership philosophy on where you're going, what do your current policies, procedures, and rules and regulations look like? Along with tradition and a few other things, you find out what your company culture is like. And culture is extremely important to how the company operates and functions. And so if you look over here, you'll find a couple of last items is we want to look at how does the company function when it comes to risk management. We want to look and see what are the priorities of the organization right now and what are future. So you have current and future priorities. And we want to go ahead and we want to look at what kinds of projects are currently taking place. All of these items have to be taken into consideration. So as you can see, running a large organization, that's why we use the title Integrated Strategic Management Systems. We're integrating multiple pieces to this puzzle into one organization that's hopefully working in unison with itself. And we're doing it in a strategic fashion because we're working off of our strategic plan, and we're not only working for current performance levels, as you see here, we're looking for future performance levels. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe as far as 15 years out. In some entities like the United States Air Force, you might be looking 30 years out when it comes to the development of new technology. So guys, it doesn't make any difference whether you're looking at Norfolk Southern, and this is their annual report from 2010 and how they're doing. You could look at the FBI, and this is the FBI bulletin, and they even have an article in here, a systems approach to organizational transformation. A systems approach to organizational transformation. They're talking about systems theory. Or you could even have a church of some sort that's trying to re-energize its congregation or change its direction for growth and for expansion of its services. It doesn't make any difference, guys, if you're government, for-profit, or if you're a small nonprofit organization. You still need systems in order to achieve high performance. And so that's why I want you to understand it doesn't make any difference if you're in operations or if you're in administration. Because most people classify themselves in large organizations as they're part of administration or they have primarily an administrative function, or they consider themselves part of operations and they do what it is the organization is good at. Whether you're service-oriented or if you're a production-oriented firm, it doesn't make any difference. Most people consider themselves one or the other. The key here, again, is the same key we emphasized here, is we want these to work in unison. We do not want internal competition. Internal competition can get out of control and can damage the organization's potential for high performance. And we don't want to take a chance on that. Guys, in a nutshell, that is systems theory. That's how critical systems theory is to operations and getting systems to operate in an administrative and a high-performing administrative functionality. That's how critical it is to getting the strategic plan implemented and getting it successfully implemented through strategic management processes. So guys, at this time, I'll entertain any questions, but please refer to this document, if you would, and the PowerPoint slides that will be posted on Blackboard and they'll be made available to you. And I'll try to address any questions that you might have. Thank you.